Orlando has long been known as the City Beautiful, also known as the City with a
Sound.
Live on stage.
The sound.
Orlando!
So, is they ready?
You mean to say that's the best you can do?
Hip-hop is something you live.
Almost anybody could do better than that.
You know? Okay, the sound of Orlando!
Show.
Knock this down like it's supposed to be.
On your FM dial.
Say it right, come.
Fastest is to trying to hold this up.
What's going on, party people? What is going on? I am back. We took a little 2-day hiatus. Man, I was feeling under the weather all weekend long. There was so many things going on, and I'm like, dude, why now? Why did I have to feel under the weather now? Man, shout out to all my peoples that had something going on, man. Shout out to my man Rob Swift and Dilly that were down here in the O, showing people how they do their thing. Shout out to my man J Mob. His birthday is today. Shout outs to you, brother. We appreciate you as always. One of our hip hop icons in the city who does his thing on a regular basis. Shout out to you. Shout out to my brother and my sister's graduation of their daughter this weekend. It was awesome. I couldn't make it there because I was under the weather, but I'm going to give a shout out to you guys, and the daughter, man. I mean, it's always a blessing to know when people graduate from high school. Not everybody has to do it to be successful, but for our young, bright stars out here that are trying to do their thing, it's great to have options and continue to push education forward. However you get it, wherever you get it, it's a beautiful thing, and we should always celebrate when people complete a chapter of their lives and go on to the next. So kudos to you. If everybody's been noticing, the NBA playoffs are in full effect. I am really excited about these playoffs. This first round is insane. You got everybody and their mother top billing in that first round. It's just a beautiful thing to see not only the sports aspect of it, the b-ball, the ball on the court, but people actually attending now and being able to kind of be amongst their people and celebrate together and root for their teams, whatnot. So shout outs to the NBA, man. We needed that right about now, and it's looking very good. Go Lakers. How about that? Shout out to my man Low Balls on the check-in, man. He's going to be on Wednesday. Can't wait to chop it up with your brother. One of these guys, man, where you just give him the floor and he'll run. Veteran in the radio entertainment industry out here in Orlando, dope ass freestyler. We're gonna be chopping it up on Wednesday. Looking forward to that. Also, too, my son Isaiah Serrano, my second oldest, reached a milestone. He's been growing dreads since his days of school, high school. And, 2 days ago, he cut his hair off for the first time, enjoying something that he hasn't seen in a while, which is him without dreads. And, my son, among other people, suffered depression. And so this was a great thing for him to kind of reach over a wall, if you will, to remind himself that at any point in time, and this goes out to anyone out there, that you can always reboot. You don't have to be one thing, for eons and eons. You can always reboot, recharge, restart, renew. And it's a beautiful thing when that happens for not only people out there, but especially my son, looking very sharp, looking very happy. He just got a great job opportunity. So I'm very proud of him right now. He lives in Missouri. One of my children that stayed back when we came here. So it's, we have a distant relationship right now as far as thousands of miles away, but knowing that he's reaching those chapters with his fiance, and as they begin to start their lives, it's just a beautiful reminder that once again, if you know anybody who is suffering depression, suffering any kind of mental addiction issues, maybe it's just them being poor, maybe it's just having felt like they don't have that many options, man, be a good neighbor, man. Reach out to your people, man. We have more options than just judging people. We have more options than just feeling like we're better than somebody. Maybe sometimes all people want is you to be able to listen. Listening begins the healing. When somebody feels like they can talk to you and share what they've been going through, it's a beautiful thing, man. And you may learn something too. Now, I don't want to turn this into an after-school special, but it would behoove any of us to take out any time to serve our fellow man, our brothers and sisters, and just listen sometimes. Maybe it's just giving some advice. I don't think any of us on this planet are people that are perfect. So advice is never going to come from, great advice is never going to come from somebody that's perfect. Normally the advice could come from anybody you run into in life, because we all fall short. Okay. So I just wanted to say that to begin the show. Now, welcome to the Sound of Orlando show, which we talk about the culture, which we talk to our people. It's a beautiful thing. I'm so honored to be able to do this show night in and night out, just to give, a full representation of what it is to not only be human, but be creative and to serve, right? Now, normally we have a lot of rappers, MCs, different people from different walks of life. But when I get a chance to bring on some R&B soulful singers, I'm giddy. I'm giddier than anything else on the planet. So tonight is a very special night. Shout out to my girl MJ on the job. This girl, I don't know when she ever has a day off. She seems like she is publicizing the entire planet. We need to scale her like times 1,000, maybe 1,000,000, to get more people in the know of what we may not be hearing on mainstream, because there's only like 5 artists that are on the mainstream, and outside of that, man, there's millions of us that are speaking for the having the voice for all of us. And all we got to do is just reach out and get to know it. So shouts out to her. This next guest I got on coming tonight is a part of that lineage of culture, creative niceness, soulfulness, R&B, soul singer, songwriter. Give it up one time for my girl, Nika Ladean. Welcome to the show.
How are you? You just gave me goosebumps. That whole speech. Like, wow, amazing.
Well,
amazing.
sometimes you guys set off the week right, good vibes, and like I said, just I love when I have some R&B on the show, especially our female representation. Never have enough of that. To let people know that it's a whole lot of y'all out here that are doing something a little different. So it's a must that we talk about it. Welcome to Orlando.
Thank you for having me.
Now we talked off air about some of the things that I needed correcting on, which was officially you're representing DC right now, but officially you're from Southern Virginia. And as we go into how you came in the game and what was your introduction to all things soul, talk about what it was like growing up in Southern Virginia and then migrating to DC on your journey in music.
Okay, so I am from a very, very, very small town in Southern Virginia. I say Southern Virginia, and everybody automatically thinks, Virginia Beach, and I'm like, no. It's very much about 2 hours away from Virginia Beach, but it's super small. I think the population at my last check was about 1,600 people.
Oh wow!
So it's a very small town, and it's one of those places where you go places and everybody knows you. If they don't know you, then they're gonna ask you, "Are you such and such's kid?" Like, I think I went to school with your mama, and so people know, like, it's just very small. But I moved around quite a bit, actually. So I grew up there, but I spent some time in the Virginia Beach area. I also lived in Texas for a few years of my life, and so I've moved around quite a bit. And I actually just got to DC a couple years ago, but it's definitely been the place. I used to live about 4 miles from Mexico.
Really?
And I thought I lived 4 miles from Mexico. So I thought that would be the adjustment of my life that I had to really, I guess, adjust to. That would be the culture shock for me. And it wasn't. It was DC that was the culture shock for me.
Wow.
It was DC.
Wow. And that's Chocolate City. Well, it used to be considered Chocolate City. I don't know if it still is, but
no.
Right. It depends on what side of DC too. Like, there's a Virginia side of DC and there's that Maryland side of DC that kind of gives it more of a different vibe than the actual district itself. But
exactly. And I actually live in DC. So, in this area, and it also depends on what area of DC you're in, because you got Northeast, Southeast, and then you got Northwest, Southwest. And so you've got a lot of people who have migrated in. You get all different cultures that live, in and not only that, but the city has gentrified quite a bit. There's a running joke that one of my producers and I have. Somebody asked me where I was moving to in DC, and I said southeast, southeast. And so he starts laughing. He says, "Stop telling people you're moving to southeast." And I said, "Why?" He says, "You're moving to southeast with the TH." And I said, "Okay, well, what's the difference?" He says, "I want you to go through your neighborhood, and I want you to pay attention to who's walking their dog and what kind of dog it is." And I went, okay. So sure enough, I get here and I look around and I'm like, okay, Sarah's walking her poodle, and Jeremy is walking his Shih Tzu, and he's like, "Now go across the border and see go across the bridge and see who's walking their dog." And I'm like, okay, now Tyrone's walking his pit bull, and I'm like, you can tell the difference. That this just happens to be the gentrified area, and moving here, I would have never thought that, but and for me, it's kind of like, okay, I just happened to find a decent area that I like, that was cool. I had no idea that this was a more gentrified area than the other areas. So,
right,
yeah.
And going back to Texas, where were you at in Texas?
Look, I was in Laredo for 3.5 years, and I was in San Antonio for 3.5 years.
Oh wow, yeah, that's kind of similar, right? I mean, just San Antonio is like a small town that wants to be a big city. And then Laredo is like, your typical border city. Yeah,
so Laredo is your typical border city. Like I said, I lived I could stand out on my balcony and see the flag. I could see the Mexican flag from my balcony. So I was really close. San Antonio is actually a metropolitan area that is small cities that make up one large city. So within, you got San Antonio, and you got San Antonio Police, San Antonio Courts, and things like that. But then you got Castle Hills, you got Alamo Heights, and things, all these other smaller cities within San Antonio that all make up San Antonio. So it's a big city, but it's got smaller cities that just kind of constitute it.
It sound like Kansas City. The same principle. It's a big city, but the population will not agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's made up of like all these little cities within it to kind of give it more than what it actually is at times. But what was it like? Like you said, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence with whether DC is a Midwest city dressed like a East Coast city. And how was San Antonio? I know San Antonio is Midwest all day.
Yeah, San Antonio is definitely Midwest.
But what is DC like to you in that regard now that you're there in this new DC?
So I've had a lot of people ask me, and I really can't give them a concise answer on this. They'll ask me if DC is a small New York. I don't know. I've only ever been to New York one time, so I can't say. But from what I experienced in New York, I can say that DC is a small New York. It's just a smaller version. I mean, Washington DC is 10 square miles. It's funny because it's literally 10 square miles, so it's small. Right. But it takes an hour to get from one side of DC, like 10 miles. It takes about an hour to get from one side to the other just because of traffic. So, I think traffic-wise, you might be able to consider it a little bit like DC. We've got our subway station and things like that, but or our railway, I should say. But to me, it's just, I know for me, growing up that Southern Virginia area, and then having lived in Laredo and lived in San Antonio and lived in Virginia Beach, one of the things that I can say I had never seen before, and it threw me off when I first saw it. I shouldn't say experience because I didn't experience it, but seeing homelessness. Like, I had never seen people sleeping on the streets. And then I just happened to be driving to work one day instead of riding I used to ride the metro to work and just get off at my stop and walk to work. And this particular day I drove into work, and there were men laying on the steam vents to keep warm, and it was like 48 degrees outside, and I was like, okay, I have no reason to complain about anything because I'm pretty blessed. I thank God I'm not sleeping on somebody's steam vent to keep warm. So I think that was one of the times that when I say culture shock, that was one of the things that I saw that made me think, oh my God. And it brought me to tears because, like I said, I'd never seen anything like that before. That's
crazy. Our girl in DC reporting the news, homelessness is at a steaming boil over there, if you will. But that's crazy because when you think about our capital and all the things that our capital has faced, and the level of poverty there is just due to a perfection, if you will. But most people that live there, they got pretty decent jobs working for the government.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
are you one of the government kids?
Yeah, I can say that Uncle Sam pays me a good little salary.
No, don't feel bad. I mean, that's just what anytime somebody says I live in DC, we know why.
Exactly.
Right? You got that pension going.
Exactly. I'm like, hey, I think I have to work for another 22 and a half years before I can retire.
Now talk about how you got into the music with all that traveling. I would have to assume that there's a lot of information and a wide variety of inspiration. But what centered you to focus on the R&B route?
So I grew up listening to R&B. R&B is my first love. So right. I mean, growing up in Southern Virginia, and I've made this joke before, and I'll say it again. One of the things that I always laugh at, I have a cousin who's 3 years older than myself, and she and I were riding around in the car one day, and I don't know if y'all have ever heard this song. I'm gonna say it. It's a nasty song. It is called Candy Liquor. Can't
Oh, wow.
Remember by Marvin Cease. And the song, I had it on my playlist for some reason, but the song came on and she just looked at me and she starts laughing. She says, "Do you remember listening to this song when we were younger?" And I said, "Yeah." She says, "We have no idea what they were talking about and what he was talking about in the song, but it is a nasty song." And so we listened to a lot of like Blue Light Basement, the Bobby Womack's and the Tyrone Davis and the Johnny Taylors. And, we listened to all of this music growing up. But, my cousin and I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house. So there was Sam Cooke and Wilson Pickett and Joe Tex and Joe Simon and all these different flavors of music, and this is like old school R&B. But when I spent time with my parents, I mean, my dad grew up in the 60s and the 70s, so that was like the funk, the P-Funk era, you know what I'm saying? So we listened to a lot of Parliament, we listened to a lot of Isley Brothers, and so R&B pretty much ran through my veins. And of course, going to church, my mom is a deacon in the church. My mom is a minister in training. And so we spent a lot of time, my family and I spent a lot of time in church. I had the gospel aspect of it, but even I remember being in church and I would be in choir practice and I'd be singing an R&B song in choir practice. And my mom was like, "You can't sing that in church." And I'd like somehow or another change the lyrics to it to say Jesus and turn it into a gospel song. And I'm like, "See, now it's a gospel song." But R&B has always run through my veins, and so it didn't come as a surprise that I would choose R&B over any other genre. But I listened to everything growing up, country, and if you can imagine, I live 4 miles from Mexico, so I listened to reggaeton, I listened to a lot of bachata music, like I said, orchestra. Opera, it was just anything that I felt like could soothe my soul. I grabbed a hold to, and I just listened to it.
Well, you had me on Joe Tex. Shout out to Joe Tex. A lot of people don't know about that Joe Tex. If you're a Quentin Tarantino fan, he normally has a Joe Tex record in the movie somewhere. So I'm sold on that. And but I'm glad you said all of that because obviously R&B has went through a lot of changes, and we're right now in a change, in a atmosphere that it's kind of like weird. MCs or rappers are trying to be R&B, and R&B is trying to be rap, and so you have that conundrum where maybe on paper that was a great idea, but it seems to have lost its way of kind of the expansion of sound, if you will, by all the people you announced. So with that said, it's how do you navigate through those waters as an aspiring artist to maintain some level of identity that is unique to yourself while creating something the world may not have heard, or competing, if you will. It depends on how you're approaching it, because for a lot of people, they do want to compete. But there's artists like her, which I don't hear anyone trying to do what she's doing.
No.
Because she really just does everything. She's a spoken word artist. She's a dope MC, and that's not even really important because all she does is just blow out, with the singing aspect. And so you have artists that have the courage to just kind of do what they want to do. What say you about being an artist and having that same amount of courage to do what you want to do? And do you have a circle around you that encourages you as well?
Yeah. So if I can be completely, keep it 100, like all I can present to you is who I am and myself. So for me to take a trap song and try to sing something and you don't understand what I'm talking about, that would not be me giving you authenticity. When I presented the song Energy, um, I wanted to make sure that there was an authenticity that came along with it. I wanted to write about something that people could relate to. I hear music, a lot of music from today, and I'm not knocking anybody, who's aspiring to sound like some of the music that you hear today. I have to be honest and tell you, I don't listen to mainstream music, which, I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody, by saying that, but I don't listen to mainstream music. I listen to a lot of indie artists because there is so much hidden talent out here, singers and even, dope MCs that, you listen to what they're saying and they are very present. They're very woke. They are very in tune with the Most High and very in tune with the universe. And so you can hear clearly what they're saying. But for me to say that, I hear a song and all I can hear is, it's like, what the hell are they talking about? Because I can't even hear what they're saying. It's just mumbling. I want people to be able to hear clearly what I have to say and to be able to relate to it. That's really, really what it is. With that said, I do have a team around me who, oh my God, it's like, one of the things that I pride myself on is that I am very old school. If you couldn't tell already, I got big hair. I mean, come on. So
love the big hair. You're already winning right here. Let's go.
It's huge, right? But like one of the things that I pride myself on is that I am very old school. And so when I present music, I wanted to have that old school feel to it. I think that a lot of times now, that old school presence in music has gotten lost. And I'll give you an example. Back in the day, when you heard Earth, Wind, and Fire, or the Ohio Players, or you heard the Isley Brothers, or Frankie Beverly and Mays, everything was so simple. There's a time of the day when the sun's going down. That's the golden time of day. How simple. There's a time of the day when the sun's going down. That's the golden time of day. Like he said, what, 11, 12 words? And it's like, so like, there's a simplicity there. I think what's going on in modern music, and especially with the crossover where you've got R&B and hip hop kind of doing this whole crossover thing, is that there's too many words in the song. There's everybody is like, you got 1,000 words in a song, and a lot of times it's like the same word over and over and over again, but you're trying to fit it all. You're trying to fit 32 bars worth of music in 16 bars, and that's not how it works. So you're trying to like rush everything, so you get like this, and it's like you can't understand what the person is saying. That's A. And then B, I think that even when you talk about competition, I think that people are competing as far as voices, and you listen to a lot of these artists, they all sound the same. They all sound the same. And then everybody feels like the only way to project their voices and to make themselves sound good is to do a whole bunch of runs, when I think a lot of people lose themselves in the fact that there's no simplicity there. I mean, you can sing a song without doing a whole bunch of runs, get your point across, and it's still giving the presence that you want to give,
Right. And you're speaking to a lot of as far as artists are right now, artists that stand out in that regard, where it sounds like it's just acoustically done, where It's personal. The voice is bringing you into their world, or the artists like a Tiana Taylor, a Jasmine Sullivan.
Yes.
People that you hear the cracks in their voice,
Yes.
and that's okay.
Yes.
You hear the pain. I think part of what a lot of times we're running away from that analog, from that personal acoustic way of approaching things, because we're masking the pain. We want to make pain sound so celebratory, and that's where the soul of soul music lies. Is you hear the pain authentically, and then you hear the party authentically, but not everything. There's like, really, it's kind of no way to kind of mask the mood. Everything has to be positive, which puts R&B in a really short, small box, if you will.
Yes.
Because if you can't approach it from an acoustic level, I mean, look, every time we hear Adele, and I don't know when's the last time I haven't heard Adele, probably never. It sounds like we're in the studio with her.
Yeah.
It's very personal. Like, as soon as she brings you in with that analog-y kind of here we are voice, and for some reason, like I said, it's people run away from that.
Exactly.
How do you approach working on music, and like, what's the first thing you want to do when you get into the studio and you got a good song? Like you said, you want to keep it simple. Well, what kind of producers are you working with? Where are you recording at to get this in place?
So I have the team of producers around me. There are 3 guys. They know my sound perfectly. And so because and we have this amazing synergy that between the 4 of us, there's this synergy that we all have together. And they're able to they know my story. We're all that, like, we're like a family, so they know my story, and they're able to kind of hear some of the things that I tell them, and they can translate what I've said to them into music, and then I'm able to then write my feelings to it. Sometimes, like, there's one song that one of the producers did, and he was like, well, you were telling me about this story, and this is how I felt, and so I did this song based on that. But when I wrote the song, I didn't even write about the story. I wrote about something totally different. I actually wrote it as a breakup song. But it has a very mellow flow to it. With that said, I do have I guess a ritual. Before I go to the studio, anytime I'm going to the studio, I always take a bubble bath. I have to. Bubble baths center your chakras, gives you a calming, and I have like a spray that I use. It is actually, I think I got it from Bath and Body Works. It's like lavender it's spearmint and eucalyptus or something like that. So I always spray that in my bathroom, and that way it gives it kind of like a zen feel. So I make sure that I am nice and mellow and vibed out before I even get anywhere near the studio. And while I'm on my way to the studio, I'm usually, while I'm in the bathtub, I'm usually singing or practicing, or actually brainstorming whatever song I want to record. While I'm on my way to the studio, I never sing my own songs. I'm always singing somebody else's song. But you talked about emotions. Whenever I get in that studio, I feel whatever emotion that song is talking about. So, like, good example, I told you, I just wrote a song about a breakup. Now, I haven't experienced a breakup in a few years. It's been a little while, but I put my mind back into how I felt when I went through that. And I felt everything just like it had, it was happening in that moment. And so when I sang it just like I was talking to that person that I broke up with.
Right.
because I had to feel those emotions. I have another song, which is actually my next single. It's a very cocky song. It's a very cocky song. It is a very, there is very little humility in this song. Believe it or not, I wrote this song while I was depressed. It's amazing that you brought up depression earlier, which I can circle back to that. But I wrote this song in the middle of me being depressed. But when I got in the studio, I didn't let my depression take over the fact that I needed to record a song that was the exact opposite of being depressed. So I turned on this. I went from Beyonce to Sasha Fierce at that point, and I turned on this alter ego. And when I say I gave this song, like I gave it, because it was like, if I'm singing about, you know, just if I'm singing about something and I want people to feel it, then I need to feel that way. So I didn't want to bring it from a standpoint of, I wrote this song when I was depressed. No, when I sang the song, I wasn't depressed. I was actually feeling pretty good. So, but yeah, when I'm in the studio, whatever I'm writing about, I want to make sure that it is portrayed in that song.
Right.
If I'm in pain, you're gonna feel I'm in pain.
Absolutely. And part of being an artist, what makes a great artist is being able to capture that moment, capture, if they're speaking for people or you're speaking for your people, you have to be able to capture the sentiment of what they feel.
Yes.
And this idea of, like I said, being who you are really is where it has to be, because I know for a lot of artists that work with other people, a lot of times there's you're sifting through trying to find your family, if you will. And so there are a lot of pressures with new family, new friends. People always have these ideas or agendas of what they want to do, which is pressure on an artist to have to figure out. Like, the circles have gotten smaller in the sense of as an independent artist, you have to kind of gauge all of this on your own. Unlike the record companies back in the day, there was artist development. It's kind of finding your way through certain things. You had an automatic team if you signed. What are some of the benefits that you found being an independent artist and approaching this? Basically, you're betting on you. Talk about what it is to approach that every day.
So I love being an independent artist. I love the fact that I am on my own time. I am, I don't have to adhere to anybody else's rules. I am very much a rebel. So me being owned by somebody doesn't really fit too well with me. And me having to, I guess, how do I say this? Like me having to basically do exactly what they want me to do. I've never been that type of person where it's like, okay, well, they want me to do this, so I'm going to do this. It's like, okay, well, you want me to do this, and I might do it, but I'm going to do it on my own time, my own way. So me being an independent artist actually gives me the freedom to be able to do that. However, like I said, I have a team around me. And the thing about my team is that everybody has a different personality that they bring to the table, but we all mesh so well that it works. So I'll give you an example. My primary producer, AJ Throwback, he's a very mellow, very laid back. It's almost as though he's my producer that without me even trying, he can go into my head and just pick a beat out of my head. And I'm like, how did you know I was thinking about like that? Like, how did you know that? And then there's but his personality is so laid back. He's just really laid back. Then there's Ransom Relic. Ransom is actually new at producing. I manifested that over him. I was like, you're going to be producing for me, right? And he was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea how to produce music. And then one day he sends me a beat. He's like, tell me what you think about this. And I'm like, you did that? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, you did this? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, so I manifested that over him, and it happened. So I'll be back in the studio on Wednesday recording to a second beat that he'd given me. But he is very much one of those people. He's business, but he's very playful. And he's a laid back type, but he's real playful and funny and witty, and he brings that to the table. And then there's my other producer, Gladiator. Gladiator is a no nonsense type person. He is all about business. He wants to work. Let's get it done, and then we can joke around.
Right.
And I can remember very clearly, like a few weeks ago, I went to the studio. I didn't feel like recording. I literally got to the studio and I laid in the floor. I just straight up got to the studio and laid in the floor. And he looks at me and he says, "What's going on with you?" And I said, "I'm just not feeling it today." And he says, "Okay, you want to talk about it?" And he allowed me a few minutes to talk about it. And he said, "Okay, you done?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "All right, get your ass up and get in the booth." And it was like, okay, and I got what I needed to get done. And so you've got these three, and then there's me, and I'm like the little sister of all
Right.
of them. But there's me, and you bring us all together, and it's like we're the Power Rangers. We've got this whole thing going on that just works. And so they don't allow me. I'll put it this way, we're a team, and they allow me free reign to do whatever it is that I want to do with their music. If I tell them, okay, I don't like this, we need to rearrange this, we need to take this and put it at the beginning, or can we make this, 16 instead of 8 or something. Like, they give me free reign to do whatever it is that I want to do as an independent artist. But at the same time, when I'm finished with what I got going on, I look at them and I go, okay, what do you think? Should I change this? So I'm an independent artist, but my team is really, I feel like we come together. I just happen to be the face. That's the face and the vocals. That's pretty much it.
Well, that's dope. I mean, because it is important to have the right people around you so that you can take what's out of your head and actually, as authentically as possible, and paint that picture. So we've talked about your approaches, how you're looking at it from an artist standpoint, being independent. Now talk about that single Energy, and what was the thought frame. What was your mind frame in going into that song, and just talk about what inspired you to make that song.
Okay, so the producer for Energy is AJ Throwback. And I had to laugh because when this was like the third beat that he'd sent me, but when I actually chased, Joey was actually my first. I call him Joey. Everybody else calls him AJ Throwback, but he was my first producer. And so I found out he could produce music, and I chased him for like 4 months. I was like at least 3 or 4 times a week. I was like, "Can you produce a song for me? Like, can we do something together?" And he's just like, "I don't have time," and he made up every excuse that he could. And then one day he just decides to send me a beat. But with the beats that he sent me, with all of the music that he sent me, it was already named. So this song, when he created it, the beat, it was already named Energy. And so I took a concept and I wrote around a beat that already had a name. Whereas, side note, Ransom sends me beats, and he, like, literally his beats are, I don't know how to name beats. Like, he never, so I can't even work with, like, I'm like, you didn't even give me an idea to work with. But
I'm notorious that way. Any track I make, it has a name attached to it, so I'm right there with.
And Ransom, one day he sent me one, and the name of it was "Well, That Was Fast," and I'm like, and it was one word, "Well, that was fast," and I'm like, what do you want me to do with this? But I actually have written to it. I'm recording it on Wednesday when I get to the studio. So, or at least I don't know. I might go to the studio Wednesday. I may not, but I say all that to say, AJ Throwback sends me this beat. The name of it is Already Energy, and I'm like, huh, okay. Now I'm going to write about this, and what is a concept that everybody can relate to, and everybody can relate to having a crush. Like, I mean, that's really what it is. Everybody can relate to having a crush, and everybody can relate to having a crush on a friend. I think we all have had that one friend where it's just like, yeah, I'm kind of feeling you. Okay, okay. So I wanted to take it from a standpoint of an adult having a crush on somebody, but kind of enlarge it a little bit. So I talk about manifestations and twin flame energy and things like that. I didn't want to just say like, oh, I got a crush on you, because guess what? Biggie and Lil Kim already did that. So I could have done that. Like, hey, I got a crush on you, but it's like, nah, let's talk about, let's take it from a different perspective and give it to the people and see what they think. That's really where my mind frame came from with that song. It's like, let's, a crush.
Dope. Now, are you presently working on a brand new album? Or are you letting this rock for a little while and just get the buzz up?
I am working on a catalog.
Okay, yeah.
I am working. When I say, just when I think, I'm like, there are times where I go through, and I had somebody tell me that there was no such thing as writer's block, and I'm like, I call BS. There is such thing as writer's block. And then I had somebody else say that if you're suffering from writer's block, it's because you're not being authentic with what you're writing. And I'm like, I also call BS on that, because there are times where you might feel like you've written this before. This just sounds familiar, and I don't want to write about this anymore. Like I said, I had to, even when it came to the song my next single, I didn't write that song when the song is a very happy-go-lucky, song. I didn't write that song when I was happy-go-lucky. I wrote that song right here on my sofa, and I was watching cartoons because I was depressed. And I was like, and believe it or not, this particular song, I don't know if anybody's ever seen the cartoon, The Emperor's New Groove, but it's about an emperor, and it's a cartoon. It's a Disney cartoon, but he's very arrogant. He's very flamboyantly arrogant, not like in a any kind of way, but he's just like, oh my God, it's all about me. Like, he's loud and brash and.
Right.
So I wrote it from a standpoint of, okay, I'm here depressed, but his name is Cusco. I was like, what would Cusco write about? Like, if he was writing this song, because I got this beat and I got to write to it, but what the heck would Cusco write about? And the words just flowed. It was like, oh my God. And so I took myself, how I was feeling out of the mix, and I started writing about what Cusco would write about. But with that said, I feel like I have so much still in the arsenal that I've yet to get out. And there are times where it's like, when I'm writing, I can tell when I'm writing, because I feel like I'm going to burst with energy when I'm writing, because it's like, oh, I've got to get this out of my system. I am constantly writing things down. It might be a bar here and a bar there, and it might not. I mean, I have a list of unwritten bars. Like, I have notepads everywhere in my apartment. I have, my notepad on my phone. I have my voice memo on my phone. And so I could be driving down the road and I'll get like a random bar pop in my head, and I write it down, or I put it in my phone or something. So I have a whole list of random bars that, if you look at them, they don't make any sense. None of them go together or anything. And then randomly, I'll be like, okay, you know what? This goes in this song, and that bar, I can make a whole song about that. So when I say I have got a whole lot more in the arsenal, I got some stuff that I told you, my mom was a deacon. My mama would look at these notes and be like, oh, I know she is not going to sing about that. I am going to kill her. But it just so happens to be what I was feeling at the time, you know?
Well, that's crazy you say that, because Eminem does that as well. Eminem writes on scrap paper, words here and there, and then he gathers it all up and makes it into something totally different. So that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
Now, you were talking about depression as well, and we just went through a crazy year of COVID, and people losing a lot of people, a lot of reason to feel some kind of way about just how the world is rotating right now. What are some of the things? Because we all know, and if you don't know, you now know, depression is like anything else. When it comes to humanity, it's a lifelong mission, and what are some of the things that and how you deal with it to break through the wall, if you will?
So I meditate a lot. Meditation has become one of my favorite things to do. And it's funny because I keep seeing these posts on IG, and it's like everybody thinks that healing is when you look, all glamorous, and it's like, nah, people don't understand that when you're healing, like, you got tissue everywhere, you're snotting up, and it's not a pretty sight when you're in the midst of healing. But I think that people who have never had anxiety or depression, they don't understand that it's an ebb and flow.
Right.
Sometimes you're here, sometimes you're there. It's just an ebb and flow. And there's certain things that I had to learn how to do. One of the things is, I think one of the biggest things that I had to learn for myself in growing is knowing that the comparison is the thief of joy. That's the biggest thing. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Ain't that right?
Comparing myself to other people and what other people have is killing my joy. And so I can't focus on what they got going on, because, and especially in a time and in a generation where social media rules everything. It's like, these people are putting up here what they want you to see. They're not putting the bad and the ugly. They putting the good and the pretty. And so you don't really know what a person is going through. But at the same time, I literally had to take a step back and say, okay, you know what? At the end of the day, in the words, and I don't want to say R. Kelly, but he did say this. He said, you can't poop what I'm eating. You know what I'm saying? So I have to take it from a standpoint of, this is me and that is you. And secondly, talking about comparison being a thief of joy, I had to take it from a standpoint of, what people think about me is none of my business. That's the second important thing. It's like, okay, I can't compare myself to them, but whatever they're thinking about me, I can't even focus on that, because I love
what you're saying, because in a weird way, it exposes when people focus on themselves. You hear how things can kind of blend, like they say, days blend into each other. Like, you hear how it could blend into narcissism. Like, narcissism, like, most people can't even spell that word, but they use it all the damn time.
Yep.
To say how people are narcissists. And then the idea of, because they're focusing on themselves, or everything is about themselves. And then the other half is, like you said, or the other side is, worrying about what other people are doing. and focusing all your energy on the pupils of others. And there is a balance in that. Both things aren't inherently evil, because what we don't share is our timelines. We don't share each other's timeline. When you decide to focus on you, it may be at the expense of me.
Yes.
I may wanted to spend time with you now. The planets aligned. I got a new bag of potato chips. Like, just everything worked out. And except I'm not going to be able to spend that time with you. So my response, hence worrying about what other people think, is you're this person, you're a bitch, you're this, because you don't want to share my timeline. And timelines are hilarious. Because sometimes that's the only way to tell us apart. We're so busy doing everything at the same damn time. And we grew up during a time where you watched the TV shows at the same damn time. We watched Billie Jean. I just posted something today, the Motown Review, when Michael Jackson did that Billie Jean. We all watched it at the same time. There wasn't that many channels. And that was one moment in life. But that shit didn't last forever. Now everybody gets to watch whatever they want to watch on their own time.
Whenever they want to watch it, right?
Right. Is that narcissist? It is like, so the idea of, like you said, which I think is very important, is what we don't realize, and I think you alluded to earlier, is the idea of what real humanity is. Like, it's the idea of actually doing whatever you need to do and forgiving quickly so that you can go back to what you were doing. Meaning, like, so if someone cannot share your timeline, it's up to them to forgive you and forgive themselves so that they could go back to the channel that they were on and not feel some kind of way that you didn't share your timeline, or that you weren't available, if you will. You hear all this crap about people being available, as if all the mail is being delivered at the same time. I'm joking. But God sends messages to everybody at different times, with different languages. We ain't all supposed to hear the same thing when everybody's hearing it.
That is you know what? I said this, shout out to the Balance and Act radio show. AJ Throwback is actually the host of the Balance and Act radio show, he's one of the co-hosts of the Balance and Act radio show. And I said this when I was on the show, and I will say it again. Something that I had to learn a long time ago is that I have always been the type of person to march to the beat of my own drum, right?
Right.
That means that I'm the only person that could hear the drum.
Right.
That also means that nobody else can hear the drum. So everybody is talking about, I'm a leader and I'm a follower. Why can't you just go on your own route and just go to the beat that's meant for you? Because guess what? If I'm following your beat, say it's the two of us, and I'm following your beat that you that you hear in your head, because that's the plan that's for you, that either I'm gonna be marching too fast, or it could be have me marching too slow to this beat, and I could be marching around in circles, getting nowhere, or you could lead me down a cliff. That, because that's not my beat. That's not my beat, not my drum. But
it could be for 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
But we all deal with it with permanent provisions. We all want things to be permanent.
Yeah.
And they're not. Nothing's permanent.
Absolutely.
And nor should it be. We ask for shit that we don't need. Right? Like, we don't need permanent.
Exactly.
Permanent sucks.
Exactly. And I think the other thing, even with, dealing with depression, is we spend so much time trying. I sent I sent a friend of mine something the other day, and he started laughing. He was like, "Man, those some bars right there." I said, "We spend so much time trying to fit ourselves into these boxes that other people have created for us. Like we spend all this time, like there's this check mark and this check mark and this check mark." I'm like, I was not created to fit in anybody's check mark. Like I can't lie to you. I'm going like I work at a job, but I remind myself on a daily basis, and I know this might come back to bite me in my black ass, and I'm gonna say it anyway. I work a job every day, and I am reminded every day that this is temporary to get me to where I need to be. Because
Absolutely.
I'm not my passion is not here. My purpose is here momentarily, but it's to shift me into I have to be able to get to another frequency. So this
Right.
is my stepping stone to get me to the next frequency. I think what people, it's funny because I work with a woman, I work with a woman and she complains every day. Every day she complains, but she's been working the same job for 24 years. And I'm like, you ain't going nowhere. So it's like, what's the point in complaining? My thing is, yeah, I complain, but I complain because I know that this is not my passion. This is not my purpose, but I'm using it as a stepping stone to get to the next level. So I think that
Well, think about what you just said right there too. Think about exactly what you just said there. The idea of what complaining is.
Mhm.
It's for me, or my interpretation of it, as I've gone on my journey and realizing that that is one of the very moments throughout the day where you're riding completely blind
Mhm.
when you're complaining.
Mhm.
Because think about how many times throughout a day that you do say you're thankful, or that you're thankful for it all, whatever it is. Like you're
Mhm.
thankful for, we back to the permanent aspect. We talk about what it is to be permanently wealthy.
Mm.
Everybody says that shit easily, but that shit sucks.
Mhm.
It robs you of empathy.
Mm.
Any person that knows any true wealth knows that it has zero to, if any, to do with possessions, or being able to purchase things. It has more to do with how quickly you can forgive, inspire, empathize, and love, and laugh,
Mhm.
and share your mistakes, your failures with everyone. Um, we live in a world right now where we don't want to show the failures. We only want to show the highlights.
Mhm.
We want to, like you were talking about earlier with the Facebook, the social medias, we want to show those things. And those things are good too, because everyone's trying to figure out, am I going to be the messenger of bad news all the time? Am I going to be the messenger of good news all the time?
Mhm.
And to even have to question that should tell you where the fuck you stand in the world right now.
Mhm.
Because anybody that's truly being who they are, from the door, shouts out to anybody that is going to get what I'm going to say. It's fucking crazy.
Mhm.
You're going to be called crazy. Shout out to one of my funniest favorite funny movies, which is Hancock. And the theme in
Mm.
that movie was "Call me crazy one more time."
Yep.
And like the idea of being considered crazy, or that part, sometimes the depression, people that are depressed because they think they're crazy,
Mm.
and not realizing that some
Excuse me.
that your salute, that some of the people in life that have been great thinkers, artists, have been absolute nut jobs.
Mhm.
Like there's nothing about them saying that we would ever understand unless we like grew up with them like just like this the entire way. And we would be crazy too if we got it. The whole point is, how can I get to crazy? And however long that is, right? Like how Jimi Hendrix was a fucking maniac.
Yes. Yes.
And he didn't care how long that road was. Like that road could have been 20 years. Well, he cared. As long as he got where he was going and his purpose and his discovery of not only himself, but the instruments that he possessed.
Yes.
The Nirvana, Kurt Cobain's, the Amy Winehouses.
Yes.
We act as if we shame each other out of pain. I don't know who these people are who want all this music done by all these fucking sober people and all these people that have no problems. Like, who are these people? Like, who listens to that music?
Exactly.
Like, we've been deprived for a while now of the suffering of people actually, Janis Joplin's, you name it, the Phyllis Hyman's.
Phyllis Hyman, yes.
Yeah. The people.
She sang, oh my God. When you listen to what she was saying, even that, like, listen to all of them. They were all talking about how they, their expressions of how they were feeling. And yeah, we made them to be crazy. But then you got somebody like CeeLo Green. Look at CeeLo Green. And
right.
then CeeLo Green comes out and he's like, I remember when when I lost my mind, So it's like, he talked about being crazy. I think that what we tend to forget is that I don't think we're the crazy ones.
No, we're not. It's a joke. It's a running joke.
Yeah, we're the normal ones. Everybody else is weird. I've always seen it that way.
Right.
It's like I've had people tell me, they're like, "Oh my God, you're so weird." It's like, am I though?
Right. Well, freedom is always weird to people in chains, and part of being crazy, part of being crazy, is the idea that there's never any chains.
Yes.
Like
exactly.
The freedom of the mind comes at a cost.
Yes.
It's sometimes the inability to interpret your surroundings in a way that includes everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like the idea of being able, like, say we may be carrying this conversation. There might be 100 people that ain't gonna get this conversation.
Exactly.
Just because we ain't saying, ghetto titties, whatever, blah blah blah. You pick a key word that would bring them in. We're talking something that actually requires a level of intellect, freedom-wise, to be free to speak your truth. And once again, the music at its best encompasses our crazy, our proverbial crazy.
Yes.
When you eliminate that, when you say we should eliminate everyone's problems, you can only be involved if you're such and such straight. Like, you hear all of these things that if you were just 2 years old, you'd realize, man, those are fucked up ass people. Like, they don't even forgive them. Like, they don't even, how you love somebody and you judge everything that they're doing based on what you would be doing. No, that's not how music. It's not how music works. It's not how art works. It's not how humanity works.
Yeah.
When music starts to sound robotic, it is because the lack of humanity in it.
Yep.
There's computers thinking. There's AIs thinking. There's robots, meaning people, just going, okay, this is what I gotta do, instead of using their own purpose to ruffle feathers, stir up trouble. I mean, it's just a beautiful thing when you can connect with family all over the world that get it, that understand the problem isn't them. The problem is there's not enough of them. So meaning, and going back to depression and how the world makes people feel sometimes. Maybe the problem isn't them. Maybe the problem is that there's not enough of you. There's not enough of you yet. You're not giving everything you have. You're not showing all your crazy to the world unapologetically, and you being you and demanding the universe, which is by design a reflector of your energy. What you give the universe, it will give it back to you tenfold.
Yes.
And that maybe it's not the people that the problem. Maybe it's us, the people suffering or dealing with those things that are not allowing themselves to give it all of it and second guessing their crazy. Well, I don't want to lose my. Sometimes you do lose your parents behind it. Sometimes you do lose your friends behind it. Sometimes you do lose the whole world behind it. But we celebrate the crazy every time we turn on a light. I mean, dude had to been a fucking lunatic to be. We celebrate the one time he got it right, and not the million times he was trying to electrocute himself outside and do all these dumb things. We celebrate the one time he got it right, but we're all the Benjamin Franklins trying to create the light bulb within us, and we need to do it.
I'm gonna say this. I grew up in the church. I don't think a lot of Black people in the church realized that Jesus was such a rebel. Because they look at it as though, like, okay, everybody, praise to Jesus and everything. But I don't think they realized that Jesus, everybody, and back in those days, everybody else looked at Jesus and was like, this dude is nuts.
That nigga was Chuck D. First of all, that nigga was Chuck D. First of all, he was public enemy number one. And everyone around him, he had Flavor Flav around him. He had every loco unit around him, and most of the prophets, most of the apostles, most of the people that had missions, the Davids, were complete psychos and lunatics. Sauls and Pauls, they were all crazy.
They were crazy. And think about this. Even if you look at it biblically, Jesus said, if you're going to follow me, you have to be prepared to leave your family behind, because they're not going to understand what you're doing, because everybody thinks I'm crazy. He went home and everybody was like, oh, that's just Mary and Joseph's son, whatever, like people thought he was crazy. But now, as a religion, he's revered. But I mean, if I guarantee that if people are like the return of Jesus, it's like, are you really ready for that? Because you can't understand the crazy that's going on now. Can you understand the crazy if Jesus comes back? So,
well, you're alluding to the shame, and most people are shamed being naked.
Yes,
and part of being crazy is being butt ass naked.
David danced naked. He danced out of his clothes. I when you said that, I thought about this. Erykah Badu. Do you remember that video that Erykah Badu did? And she walked down the street naked. I loved her in that moment because she was unafraid, unashamed. This is who I am at my core. This is me. This is as close to you can. This is as close to naked as I can be for you to understand who I am. And instead of people seeing her in this natural beauty of she's a freedom, they said, this heifer got the nerve to walk around in Dallas, Texas, butt naked down the street. And my thing was, yes, I love it. I love it. Because
shout out to Badu, Queen Erykah Badu. That's basically what crazy is. It's the ability to be naked amongst people who are shamed into their clothing.
Yes.
And most people wear clothes everywhere they go. Mm-hmm. And that's metaphorically speaking. Because we
don't want y'all to walk around. We don't want you to start whipping.
But we have a responsibility as I as a fellow artist, I know what that is.
Yeah.
You knew it from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't know what it would manifest as, but you knew your lane when you came out on Earth. Like you knew what you were. This is who I am. This is what I don't know what it's gonna look like, but this is what, and that shit ain't going to fucking place. It's a lifelong gift meant to serve the world, meant to serve, and that world may be 3 people. That world may be people that can't even afford to buy your stuff. That world may be anyone. We don't know who it is because that's not our job. We're not the analyzers. We're the creatives. We're meant to just paint our pictures and give them away so that they could see heaven in its expanded view, and the idea of whatever that is, or the world, or life, or the healing, and whatever that is. And it requires all of us to be accountable for us being who the fuck we are, whether or not anyone in which we hold on to or brings us comfort are there to witness it. Because that's not where true comfort is. True comfort is in the ability of never knowing what the next day is going to be like, or what color of palette, what palette of colors you're going to have the next day to color with, or
exactly,
or during your worst moment in life, you being able to draw such a beautiful picture of it all and inspire people to persevere through their challenges and not be shamed by their so-called failures / lessons. Like, we all do this to each other. We shame us out of our lessons. We act as if we shouldn't be happy to go. And I know I'm saying that shit easy as hell. I know I'm a work in progress, but that doesn't mean I don't know.
But we all are. If the moment
Right.
you stop being a work in progress is the moment that you need to find yourself, or the moment that you actually die. We
Right.
all are works in progress every day.
But I would like to believe that at the end of the day, it is as simple as it should be, which is maybe it ain't that fucking difficult. Maybe I should just forgive and keep it moving. Maybe I should just give my gift to the people and keep it moving. Maybe I should just stop worried about who's going to do me wrong and where I can do right. You know, and when you think of life that way, it becomes so clear in nature for you to just focus on you're crazy.
Yep.
Because your crazy consumes you. You're crazy. When do you like? I know my crazy won't even let me sleep. If I allow it, it won't even let me sleep. I will be consumed for the rest of my life in my own crazy, because that's how dope my crazy is. Like, I love it.
I have said this on so many occasions. I'm so glad you said that. As a creative, you don't sleep. Like, and I have moments, and I don't know if you can attest to this, but I have moments, like last night was one of those moments. It was still light outside. It was actually lighter than it is right now. And I was like exhausted. Like it was around this time, maybe 30 minutes earlier. And I was like, oh my God, I want to go to bed right now. By midnight, I was back up and I was like writing in my phone, because I had this song idea that woke me up, popped in my head, woke me up, and I just started writing. Boom, 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 boom. And then I wrote until about 4:30 this morning, and I finally dozed back off, and the alarm went off at 7:20 for me to get ready to start work at 7:30, because I'm working from home. Yay. So, but you know, it literally, like, you don't sleep at night. And I have had the funny thing about it is I'm not the only one, because I could wake up at 3:00 in the morning because I have an idea in my head, and I could text any one of my producers and I'd be like, hey, are you up? And they're like, yeah, what's up? I'm working on this. And I'm like, yeah, I had this song idea. Okay, yeah, go ahead and tell me what you're thinking. I'm going to give you a call, or we'll FaceTime each other. Okay, tell me the rhythm that you hear. And we work at like 2-3 in the morning. There is no sleep when it comes to this. You don't rest well, because I know for me, my mind is constantly working. And then usually I fall asleep before my alarm goes off. one of the things that I have to do in order, you were asking me how I get through the depression. This is something that I had to learn. The power of I am is pretty phenomenal. So every morning when I wake up, I say a series of things that I am, and I speak life over myself. I speak affirmations over myself. So I start out and I say, I am strong, I am witty, I am creative, I am talented, I am beautiful, I am charismatic, I am smart. Anything. I am blessed, I am loyal, I am, all of these affirmations over myself. And then after I say them, I say, what I'm grateful for. I am grateful for this day. I'm grateful for this. And then I'll say, thank you, God, for the opportunities that you have presented to me to be the best that I can be. And I manifest whatever it is that I need in my life to get to the next level. And then I say my little prayer and I start my day. And usually it takes me about somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes to do all of that. But I always start my morning out with affirmations. I am, I am, I am. Because, other people, if I listen to other people, they will tell you that I was crazy. Which is fine by me.
I love crazy. Crazy is the entire size of the universe, whatever that is. It's a rabbit hole. It's amazing. You have to be reminded sometimes to get out and let people know you're not too far gone. But like most people, it's finding that balance, because if you really love your gift won't leave you alone. Your gift will tell you this is what you're supposed to do, regardless to whether you're in trouble, regardless to whether you're in pain, regardless to whether you worked all day. It's going to tell you, no, this is what you came to do. I don't know what they're telling you.
Yeah.
But this is the truth. And, it's a beautiful thing to know that exists, that frequency exists for a lot of us, all of us. And that's how we're all connected, to me.
Yes.
We're all connected in that frequency of doing what we came to do on this planet. And man, what a great conversation. But I do want to let the people know, where can they find your song Energy, and how can they keep in touch with all things Nika Ladean?
Yeah, so you can find Energy. It is streaming on all music platforms just by searching Nika Ladean Energy, or Energy Nika Ladean, however you want to search it. And you can find me on all platforms at the Nika Ladean. That is at TheNikaLadean. Or you can just search Nika Ladean, and I'll pop up. You'll find me. So,
man, what a great conversation. I like the music is going to have to be dope. After the conversation like that, it just gotta be dope. Like, there's no way it cannot be dope. But man,
I will say this: I before I started recording to one of the songs that I for Ransom, he was in the studio with me a few weeks ago, and we played some of the stuff that that's in the catalog already. And I just happened to walk to the bathroom, and I came back, and he's sitting there and he's bopping his head, and I go, well. And he says, it's trash. Like, he's a jokester. So he's like, it's trash. And I go, no, for real, what you think? And he says, you're about to have a classic album. And
dope.
I could breathe a little bit at that point, because it's like, okay, I'm on the right track. I feel like I'm on the right track. So,
well, like I said, after this conversation, you had me at Joe Tex. This solidified it. I mean, but you're always welcome on the show.
Thank you.
Next thing you're dropping, keep us up to date on what you're doing. And
I will.
Orlando's supporting you. Shout out to DC. And let's keep it going.
Thank you.
Give it up for R&B singer Nika Ladean joining the Sound of Orlando show today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
All day, all day. Man, it's great to have artists like this come on and do their thing and talk about real things and soulful music and just, man, it's just awesome to have. Shout out to my man Low Balls on the check-in. Shout out to my man Malik. Shout out to E-Turn. What's up, sis? What's going on? Shout out to Jesse Jazz. Shout out to everyone that tuned in tonight, man. We appreciate y'all. If you need any kind of printing, graphic work, any kind, hit up my man, the legendary DJ Jesse Jazz at 5stargraphics.com. He is our sponsor of tonight. Man, such a great time to have you guys on tonight, man. It's a Monday. Still kind of feeling under the weather, man, but I'm hoping by the weekend we should be good to go. Saturday night, you can find me at Iron Cow for a video album release party with my man Jay Terra. It's going to be dope. Looking forward to that. And, man, Saturday night, Iron Cow, heart of Orlando, downtown. You already know. Let's go.
Orlando has long been known as the City Beautiful, also known as the city with a
Sound. Live on stage.
The sound.
Orlando!
So, is they ready?
You mean to say that's the best you can do?
Hip hop is something you live.
Almost anybody could do better than that.
You know? Okay, the sound of Orlando!
Yo.
Lock this down like it's supposed to be.
On your FM dial.
Here I come.
Glasses is to turn the whole this up.